Good morning, everybody. How are you guys? I see a lot of familiar faces out here. That's great. Thank you for spending your last morning of Hall of Fame with us. We have a representative of the art department. We don't always get a lot of art department people here. It's very camera heavy, it seems like sometimes. So very excited. For those of you I don't know, my name is Shane Reese. I'm a art department lab instructor for the advanced production and the film department. And I think I'll just get into it. Let's get our production designer that's up here. She's a production designer for Yellowstone and 1883, Yvonne Boudreaux.
Hey. Hi, my name is Yvonne Boudreaux. I'm the production designer for a show called Yellowstone. And in conjunction, I've also was the art director, supervising art director on 1883, which is the prequel to Yellowstone. So today I was going to just show you both projects, like in-depth detail of what is a production designer, what it takes to do all of this, and some really fun behind-the-scene moments. So I thought it would be interesting. Okay, I'm just going to get into it. So my background is, can you guys hear me? Is everything? Yeah. Okay. My background is in architecture. I started in architecture school. This is a final project that actually got me a job 10 years later in set design, which is just, you never know where things are going to take you. So in architecture, I was able to understand space and sort of choreography in space, and I was also a dancer, and so I started making dance installations and using, again, space and objects, and I was doing it all. I was the producer, the dancer, the choreographer, so it got to be a lot. So I went to school at the University of Texas in Austin and got my master's in set design. And they let me do wild things. This is where I put the floor on the wall, and we got to fly. And so, shocked that they let me do this. And while I was at school, getting my master's, the film program sort of opened up and needed designers. And, sorry, I jumped ahead. This is, here's what I was doing. I was supposed to be getting my master's in set design, and so I was building sets for the theater program and also doing dance things, and then that's when we got to do a film set, and that is when I felt like I was at home. Just the building and the designing and sort of all of the tools I gathered up to this point with dance and architecture brought me here. So right after school, I was recommended by a professor to go to Portland, Oregon, and work on this movie, a stop-motion animation film called Paranorman. And in my interview, they said, "Can you draw buildings that are not straight lines?" I was like, actually, I have the perfect example. And so I showed them that project from architecture school. And I got to do Neil's neighborhood. So that was Paranorman's best friend. And it was a blast, but it was drafting every day. But again, all the skills I had kind of accumulated up to this point was extremely beneficial. So here are some of my drawings compared to like what was built. They would give us renderings, and then we would need to figure out how to make it to fruition. This was really fun. This was really fun. This was a theater set. So that was, theater nerds. We love to get to do the theater sets. So this was the drawing, and then there it is, sort of a work in progress photo. So then I came back to Austin, Texas, and I worked on Machete. And this was my first live action, union, sort of all the things. Technically, we were low budget, but let me tell you, we had a lot of fun. So you had to make, you still had to think of things. There was a shootout in a church, so obviously you can't do that. So we built a portion of a church. We got to blow up stuff, and they had like low riders, and we got to outfit all of that. So it was a lot of fun. And luckily, again, at the right place at the right time, I was able to work on a television show called Revolution. And oh my gosh, back then we did I can't even believe it, but we did 22 episodes in one season, which is absolutely insanity, in 11 months. And so that was great, though. All of this was really great because it got my experience started to grow. So Machete was a really big step. Paranorman was a great step. This television show, then I learned how to do television, because television is a different beast than film, and a big beast. You know, we landed huge sets. And then I also was juggling independent films. So this was a really beautiful film called Little Woods, and it was an independent film shot in and around Austin, Texas. And I luckily had this big skill set, so these were all empty spaces that we dressed for the different sets that were called out. And then I got to land on another very large television show called The Sun, and this was great because it was a Western, a period Western. So I got my first dose of Western towns and working in a time period, 1920s. We did a little bit of Mexico. These are all sets built from scratch. This was just taking the concrete floor of the warehouse we were shooting in, and you painted the lines, you know, to make it look like tile. You know, there's all these cheats that you can do. And this was my first experience we'd worked with the Comanches in Texas, and so we had an advisor to help us with this scene, especially because it was a period this was actually in the 1800s, and we also wanted to work with the Comanches, so we had a Comanche advisor. And all of this package landed me on Yellowstone. But we started Yellowstone, just a small group of people up in Utah and Montana. So what is a production designer? We are responsible for basically the entire visual concept of the movie, the film, the show, whatever it is that you're creating. And it requires managing a humongous team. You'll see my breakdown in a minute of the amount of crew that we work with. Everybody asks me, how many people do you have on your crew? And I'm like, I don't know. I made 100 shirts for the art department and they were all gone. So I don't know. And it's just a huge vision, massive communication with the directors, the cinematographers, the grip, the electric, you know, everyone across the board. And that's what's been so lovely on Yellowstone, is we've been there for over 5 years and working with the same people, and we're family. You know, we take care of each other, and we're in the middle of nowhere. So if you don't have something and you need something, we all help each other. So again, there's the multitasking and teamwork, obviously, and time management is huge, and you'll get to kind of see how that plays. Here's a breakdown, because I teach this sometimes, and I started writing on a chalkboard, and I ran out of space, so I made a chart. I was like, y'all want me to make a chart? So as a production designer, I mean, there's many, many, many more elements to a film. This is just sort of the art department. I work very intensely with a location manager. Locations is huge, and they go around and find all these things. So we talk about, what is it that they talk to me. What are you thinking? What does this space feel like? What does this space feel like? So we talk through that. We get direction from the directors and the DPs, and like everybody comes together. They go out and they take photos, massive amount of photos, and they have a website. They have all the locations, and we talk and we talk and we look and we look. So that's my relationship with the location manager. In the art department, you've got the props, set deck, obviously the art department, construction, painting, scenics, and the greens. And then under them, they've got all these people. And then under this all grows. And so we're all sort of working together for a main thing. The art director is sort of the communication liaison between all of these people. And then they bring questions to the production designer. I've art directed a ton as well, so I know the position very well. You communicate with all these people and coordinate kind of the nuts and bolts, but then when there's questions, you bring it to the production designer, because the production designer is communicating with the DP and the directors and the producers and all the things to get all the things made. So it's just this like organism that works, but Every single person is so important for the organism to breathe. Okay, here we go. Yellowstone is everything, unique. It's a unique situation. So we have the ranch. And what's interesting is the sets are established. So there's some established sets there. So a producer asked me last week, what if you get a script the day, like a week before shooting? I said, it's okay. I talked to the AD team. We shoot what we have. And then what we need, that gives me time. And I will go and, perform miracles on other locations. So this is technically a location, but it's blurry because it has sets there. Here's sort of the site plan. And it's always great to work with plans. It helps grip and electric know where they're going to put equipment. It helps transpo know what's safe and what's not safe and what we're going to be shooting. It helps catering know where to, everybody needs to know. So we provide plans for every location we're shooting. So you can see here, we've got the stables. That's sort of where we have all of those scenes that involve the barn and the bunkhouse. You can see the bunkhouse, the entrance. Beth and Rip had a house at one point. It's kind of the traveling pants show because they always are moving. And then at the bottom, you can see there's the Dutton house. So, and we shoot all over. This is like a back lot. We shoot all over. We shoot a lot of our exteriors here. We fake things. There's woods. There's all these things. So there's that's the arena. A lot of action happens in the arena. And it's kind of, you don't get to see this angle. I like this angle. It kind of shows. And you see the barn. It's sort of like the hearth of the whole compound. And, just some good smoky arena business. Those are called prefert panels, and I know them very well. That's how we have a lot of cattle moving, so we have to orchestrate. So we work with the wranglers on, they got to tell us how the cattle's going to move. And so we set up prefert panels. These are just some fun set photos of the bunkhouse. And the bunkhouse is an established set. It's been there since season 1. So again, that's something I can lean on. There's always something specific, always something different we need to have on the television or et cetera. But it's a set. It's a standing set. And so that they can go shoot the bunkhouse and let me get this other stuff done. There is sort of a close-up of the Dutton house. This is where the family lives. But there's the exterior. We shoot in that house. We do shoot the great room. So this has been dressed for Yellowstone, and he allows us, Shane is the owner, and he allows us to leave it, thank goodness, when we're not shooting anymore, between seasons. This is the kitchen, which is also on location, and this is sort of a nice little stairway that leads from the great room to their bedrooms. Here's the stage. So this is on a stage about an hour away from the ranch, and this is the dining room. His office, John Dutton's office and John Dutton's bedroom. I'm just giving you glimpses of, you can see the continuity between the sets that are, the home that we shoot in, and then the sets that we built to kind of bring it all. We don't need to be, thank goodness this guy did not allow us to shoot in his bedroom, because it would have been 5 years later, we would have still been there. So this is what it's massive. This is what it looks like on stage. And I remember when I walked in and I started on season 2, I was like, oh, okay, you guys got some money. All the toilets flush, all the showers work, all the sinks run. I was like, okay, I can do this. That's the biggest backing I've ever seen. Here's sort of a plan of, how massive this is. And believe it or not, we do have backings on rollers that we do move around, because it's just so much. So these are some of our standing sets. We have places all over. So we also work on location, and so I'm going to talk about how you augment a location. Nothing is shoot ready ever, especially on Yellowstone. This was a college dorm gathering room where they had just like couches and stuff, and so we had a custom table, 24-foot table, and all of this. You bring in the curtains and the elements, and you transform it into a Capitol dining room. That's what we did that for. And then the locations are massive. And so we can talk about how you can achieve this look. So I start with the script. Here is a glimpse of just episode 4. This is one of my largest new sets this season, this one. So I'm also shooting episode 3, episode 2, and episode 1, and I get the script. And I think it's about 80%, 75 to 80% new sets. So you start with the script, and it's all about actor availability. So the ADs are able to give me an idea of what they're thinking needs to be first. What does it need? We kind of have this, like, it's almost like a poker game where we're like, okay, what can you do first? What can you do first? What can you do last? Those kinds of things. I go and I look at all these locations, and then I make these work lists. So this is a great way to communicate to my team all the things that need to get accomplished. And then construction sees what paint needs to do, and so they need to get things ready to be able to give to paint. Graphics, this is their way of knowing just specific graphics for the location. They've got to deal with all the graphics that are called out in the script, but in addition to the graphics in the script, they are also, this is like cover the visa sign, all these like specific things that are on the location. Set deck, this is just, they have their notes. These are just specific notes that were either called out by the director or that I saw that needed to be there. Who knows? And then construction has their work list of this is what they get done. What's amazing about this is my phone doesn't ring because everybody kind of knows what they're doing. Is it hard to put this together? Absolutely. Do I have to stay up late at night doing it? 100%. But it makes it so it's a really good communication tool. And there's all these little details in there that tells locations, I'm going to need 3 weeks prep in this location. So you're going to need to get moving and book it, and that's what we're going to need. So then it's all negotiation, and they come back and say, well, they can only do 2 weeks prep. So then we talk to construction, it's all communication. But this is great because then locations can go to a homeowner and they can say, these are the things we need to do to your location for the show. So it's a really great communication device. This season in particular, but Taylor called me one night and was like, I want to make sure we hold on to the sunset. The tone of the show needs to be very warm and, have a very aged, warm sunset tone. And, it's Montana. We need to remember we're in Montana because we were doing all of these, the main character, John Dutton, became governor, but he just said, remember, keep those warm tones. So the work list we were looking at that needed 3 weeks prep. This is the Capitol, the Montana State Capitol hallway and meeting room. So I grabbed a couple clips of the script. This is what I get. I get 2 sentences. They're walking down the hallway, and they're going to pass the room. They're going to look, and then they walk into a room, and then they have a conversation. This was a school we luckily found in Missoula. It was built in the early 1900s, and it was abandoned, as you can see. But I saw it, and I loved it, and I said, it's perfect because we can't shoot at the Capitol. It's about 2.5 hours away, and it's just too much of a location move for a small scene like this. They do shoot at the Capitol for just like juicy, big-time things that you can't fabricate. So Taylor Sheraton is the creator of our show, and he's also our showrunner. He is not on location. He's in Texas when I'm in Montana, and he's probably one of the busiest people alive. So I know I get couple seconds with him in an email. So I put together these boards. This comes from my architecture roots because they always used to say, now, if you pin up and you get hit by a bus, your drawings need to be able to speak for you, which I'm like, is that the best analogy? But it came in great when I'm sending an email to Taylor because I need to walk him through the set, the befores, what we're going to do, here's this, here's that. I just give him sort of an overall collage. Again, when he approves this, it goes to paint, it goes to construction, it goes to set deck. Everybody knows what we're doing. So it's a really great tool to then distribute to my team. I went to Helena, where the Capitol is, and I saw this small meeting room, and so I just pulled the colors that are there. It's not rocket science. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. So I grabbed the colors there. That conference table that we had for the 24-foot-long conference table in the dining room, repurposed it, brought it in here, found chairs. These are rentable chairs, found chairs from Los Angeles. We rented those chairs. We've got all these beautiful Russell's art to kind of bring in the Capitol. They have a lot of similar artwork like that in the Capitol. And there's our abandoned location, and there it is dressed. So there's the hallway. We tied those, the lights tie into our set that where the governor's office. So everything, you just have to give little clues and tie everything together. And there's the meeting room. Needed to serve a bigger crowd. That's why we weren't going to go to Helena anyway, but a small meeting room wouldn't work. So I brought in a wall. I built a wall, so it was a huge sort of auditorium, and we brought in a wall, and then we were able to give texture to that wall. You don't ever just want a flat wall. You want to give pilasters, so the wall has depth and texture. You're always kind of overcompensating, like, we're not a set. See, there's stuff going on, you know. Also, that allows you to build the set in a way where the walls can wild out, and that's so a camera can get behind that. We're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm like a wild wall advocate. And there's some screen grabs. So there he is walking down the hallway, and then boom, into the meeting room. And you can see that quilt at the back of the end of that hallway. That's called a backing wall, and those are your friends. That was just sort of, again, another abandoned room, throw a backing wall behind it, bada boom, bada bang, they shoot that hallway. We also went in, the DP was like, oh, there's these boarded up transoms, so we took those transoms down, brought in natural light, you know, all of this artwork. We cleared art. That's a process where you have there's some Library of Congress has artwork in domain, so that means public domain, which means you can use pretty much anything. They have descriptions on what's available and what's not. But also we have a team, a lawyer team, that we clear art through. So everything you see on the picture, on the frame, has been cleared through all kinds of people. We make our own seals. We're not allowed to use the real seals, so we make our own. So you have to fabricate things. It has to be a certain amount of percentage different than what the existing one is. So it's all complicated, but you grow and you learn. So there's another really great screen grab of the meeting room. So Benny's Bistro got a huge transformation because she's green, and that doesn't follow our color palette. And this is a coffee shop, and the senator and the governor were going to go to lunch. But we liked it because it had, we call it good bones. You know, the architecture is there. And also, it worked because of the place that it was in. So sometimes, that's what I learned the most this season, is sometimes I'm given a lemon and I have to figure out how to make lemonade with it because it has to do with where it is or how it fits in the schedule or who's going to be available when. So we took this and I made my boards for Taylor. So I proposed, okay, we're going to warm it up with this color. And there is an existing back bar. And it's where they're serving, they serve food. So I said, okay, I have to embrace the bar, but it's a good, juicy background for them to shoot the governor and the senator eating. So I found this research. So again, research is massively useful for people to see the direction you're going in and to give everybody the direction and the vibe that you're trying to achieve. So this is the board I sent to Taylor. Colors, wood, I'm going to bring in some wood tones. I'm going to bring up the Montana vibe. And I wanted at this back, where that existing bar was, I made a plug wall. It's literally, you're plugging sort of a big opening. So this was the proposed plug wall. This is it. This is a set photo of the plug wall. And we embraced the bar. We copied that. We just used that research photo. This is sort of a drawing of it. I know it's a lot. And there's the set photo, so they've got really good camera angles. Again, this sort of coffee bar existing thing, they just kind of avoided it. Everything else was in such good shape. We kind of call that the fourth wall, which means don't shoot it. And there's a screen grab, and see there's that good, juicy back wall. And they've got really great natural light coming in from the windows. Oh, the police station that looks like a doctor's office. I didn't even send Taylor these photos because he would have died. It's white and awful, and he would have said, you can't shoot there. So he's gonna walk through the whole thing. I mean, every hallway, every nook and cranny, that's what was scripted. So I actually prevised a little bit and showed him, this is what it's gonna be. There's this really great material called Belbian, and they make all these amazing different wood grains, and we use it for everything. So it's like almost like a contact paper. It's like a more, you can get like wood grain contact paper at Home Depot. Well, this is like the advanced version that gives you every tone possible and texture. It's amazing. It's temporary. It can be used permanently as well. So we went in and we papered the bottom portion of that. It's called wainscoting. Help warm it up. We repainted the entire police station. They wanted it back to the white. And I gave Taylor, again, it's hard because I'm making these like really early and I'm trying to get approvals, but we don't have all the information yet, so it's hard. And so I grab either something off the internet or my graphic designer's already made something, so it's just a collaboration. We were gonna put the police station, this is our cleared name of the police station. Boom, look how warm in Montana that is. Again, time and place, you don't have to kick people over the head with it, but I think, obviously having bear photos and mountain photos kind of help warm the environment, but also say where we are without knocking you over the head with it. And yeah, and then graphics. You don't want blank walls. Especially with Taylor, which will show you how that's very hard sometimes. So it's also just like pamphlets, community organizations, calendars. Where do you need to go to get your check signed? Where do you need to go to get your ticket filled? All those, we just all kind of come up with ideas and we make all these graphics, hours, anything you can possibly think of to help paper the walls, to help add texture so an actor doesn't get a blank wall behind them. These were their photos, they're really great police photos, and we got them cleared through our clearance service to use them. Usually when things are in background and the actor's just kind of flying by, it's okay. Maps are always a good thing. I love using maps. It's easy, it's clearable. The flashback town hall. So this was an enormous room that was completely empty and all white. This is not a before photo. Our set deck team, so it was a flashback to the 1998. Our flashback scene our set deck team had to give this room life. So we decided as an art department, this is like a Legion Hall, so they're gonna have banners and posters and veterans, like things from all the time in Montana. So this was the before. So it's basically just this big white room. Belbian to the rescue. So the Belbian we did on the bottom, the wainscoting on the bottom, and then we painted the whole room this really good warm color, and we age it like a tobacco stain because they probably still smoked indoors back then. Well, before then, you have to think about not 1998, but 70s and 80s and 90s because they haven't obviously remodeled. So we warmed it up with the wooden blinds, we warmed it up with the Belbian, but you'll see Set Deck went in there and made these little moments. And this is just, they went and shopped and got little uniforms and said, these are our local heroes. And they brought in plaques. I mean, who knows what those plaques say, but it's all just kind of these little moments that I thought was trophy case events. And you can see just like a couple of those touches really send you in the time period. In Montana, it could be now, but the clock and the phone on the wall, all these moments kind of help. And of course, wardrobe puts it over the edge and really says where we are. And they filled it up. We have a serious head count with extras. But you can see just that those little moments on the wall really bring the set to life. And it makes it more interesting than just a plain room. And there they are kind of having a confrontation. And, the thermos kind of helps say where we are. They had made this coffee stand, which I was like, that's cute, but thank goodness it had the correct creamer on it because they got a glimpse of it. So I'm going to show you a set that was a full build. It's the first scene of the season. And Kevin Costner has just found out, John Dutton has found out that he is governor. So they are in this hotel room as a war room where they're still working until they work up till they find out. I watched a documentary called Running with Beto because my friend made it, but I was like, they did the same things. I wanted to catch details, maps. Everybody's got the computers. Everybody's got water bottles and snacks. So like, what are all the things, these like details in a war room that I don't want to get off of Getty Images? I want to see like for real. I also wanted, it's just a huge scene. He starts in the bathroom and he's staring in the mirror. So that means we need to build it because we need to wild that wall for a camera to get this really big moment in the whole series. And I wanted him to feel like a fish out of water. You saw all those warm log tones at the ranch. I want this to feel completely opposite of the ranch. So still keeping warm. You can see these are one of my first boards. They weren't as good. There's my research, research. I had to figure out, okay, what are these elements in the bathroom? And then how do we make it work with our set? So there's all these specific moments, but mostly Beth is going to walk up and open the door and talk to John in the bathroom. And he's pulled a dining room chair in the bathroom. So I knew I needed to put where the action was, where they're finding out, where they're going to find out the election. I want to see that out the door. I want, when we're looking at her, we're seeing all the business in the back. And you also have to, I think they was scripted like 10 computer laptops. So we have to have surfaces and places for all these laptops. And he's in a suite, so that means you have to have some kind of kitchenette. So there's all these components and all these clues that you have to kind of make. But what's great about doing your own set is you get to have that choreography through the space. I just wanted you to see, this is another, this is actually formerly a beehive, and this is where we put some of our sets. And that big open space is swing sets. We call them swing sets. So it'll be a set just for one pop off, and then we pull it down and we store it. So those are called swing sets. And there it is. So you see how you're going to look through Beth, but you're going to see the campaign. You're going to see everybody celebrating, and he's like, what am I doing? And then I made this brown door is like saying it's the lavatory, the restroom, but it's actually for crew access to get out of that small space. Because what happens is you don't want a one way in, one way out, because I'm always the one that gets stuck. I need an escape route because I'm always like, excuse me. And then I just happened to be on set the day where they did pull the wall, and that was why I had to spend $100,000 building that set. I got a little bit fussed at. But it's because they needed to pull that wall and have that moment to see him, and you can't do that in a bathroom. And this does not exist in Montana, this kind of set. Oh, good, there's more photos. So there's that dining spot so I could have surfaces for laptops. Again, look, surfaces for laptops. We hung us art up, to say where we are. We're in the campaign room. And we've got warm tones, but it definitely feels different than the ranch. And like a cowboy hat doesn't melt in this room like it does on the ranch. Oh, Casey and Monica's house. This was my very artistic vibes of, because we had to basically, it was remodeled on the outside, but the inside looked like this. Yeah. And I had 30 days, and it was going to cost $110,000. They got us down to 100, but it's time, we don't have a lot of time, so we did it. We actually did this on season 4. We did the downstairs on season 4. Season 5, I needed to do the upstairs, so it was like not my first rodeo at Casey and Monica's house. And there's the upstairs. So you saw that picture was in shambles. It didn't even have sheetrock on the wall. So we got in there and we did it. This was shot day 3. And I think they made the decision, because of course nobody likes to make decisions to spend a lot of money. I think we got 2 weeks in there. So it was a hustle. And construction had to work on the weekends to get it done, but they got it done and they painted it. We put the tile in. Then Set Deck had a couple days to dress it. I think they had 2 days. So it was a tight push. The prison, this is a fun location in terms of an example of showing you shooting at a location and then fabricating it on stage. So we got to And we shot it for 2 characters. So one character gets released from jail, from the Montana Women's Prison, so we made a sign, and they had all this great production value at the prison, and they allowed us to shoot on the yard. But going inside was just gonna be too difficult. Oh, site plan. So these are the photos of that prison interior. So we built a very similar interior. It was scripted for 2 people in a cell. So that was challenging. So we had to, this is sort of the set, and you make walls at Wild again for all the different components. And again, a little bit of of course, they're gonna have a talk in a conference room, which they're all blank in prison. So this is that opportunity that I had to kind of, behind every graphic you can possibly think of, and conduit and microphones, like what is on walls, because they just don't have anything in prison walls. And this is the pet crematorium. So pet crematoriums aren't shootable for so many reasons, but they're very small, and this is scripted to have a big drawer that comes out and a lot of wolves placed on a drawer. So again, our studio had a great warehouse looks, because you saw it previously was an actual pet crematorium that just didn't work for us. So we just shot it on our stage, on our beehive, and I just built 2 walls, and boom, that's it. That's actually the green screen stage, like right behind it. But we just built these 2 walls, and special effects and construction actually built the incinerator because it needed to be big enough, and they wanted to see the flames. So you do your research, and you get your flame bars and all the things. So those are some good shots of that. Okay, so I'm going to show you, I was going to show you the trailer to Yellowstone 5, because now you're a professional and you know everything about it. And then I was going to talk about 1883, so the prequel to Yellowstone, but it takes place, it's a period piece, so it takes place in the 1800s. And then I'll show you that trailer right after Yellowstone, and then I'm going to go into it because I think it'll be useful for you to see the trailer first. Okay. And here we go. Okay.
I, John Dutton, do solemnly swear to uphold the Constitution of the state of Montana against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
You have no friends in this building, John. You're gonna have to bring your own.
What you gonna do first? What do you think I'm gonna do? You're all fired. Beth, you're my new chief of staff.
Back to work.
I love Montana, but I'm doing this for our family. We need to talk.
They will fight you. They will fight you dirty.
Is there any other way?
Ruin them, starting with her.
Signing this order is a declaration of war.
We're already at war.
I do this for my father. I don't do this.
Fucking family!
I love it when she gets mad. It means I'm gonna make a lot of money.
When I say we give everything to this land, I do mean everything.
So you saw some things, right, that we talked about. So I thought that was a good example. Okay, and now we're going to talk about 1883. It's the best thing I've ever worked on. And it was a beautiful show and the hardest thing I've ever done.
Y'all just sit and watch. You look like you had it figured. Thanks for the help.
You James Dutton?
Yes, sir.
Mind if we speak?
Whatever you're selling ain't buying.
Daddy!
My family's meeting me here tonight, and we're heading north. I'm gonna keep heading north till I find country's worth the journey.
I admire your courage, but you're gonna pick a fight you can't win before long.
What's that for?
Not sure. But I'd sure hate you don't have it when we find out.
This journey will be dangerous all the way to Oregon.
I believe in you, and I believe in that boy, and I believe in our daughter, and that's all.
You can police yourselves, or I can do it.
You don't control them. It's a free country.
That is a free country. That is no man's land, and that's where we're heading.
Anybody else want to fuck with my family? Anybody?
There's only one killer in Fort Worth, and that's me.
New series streaming December 19th, exclusively on Paramount Plus.
Okay. Dramatic. Oops, so sorry. All right. So the Dutton family, this prequel explains how they found their ranch in Montana, and they are going to Oregon. And so it's a really beautiful story about traveling across from Texas to Oregon and how they ended up in Montana. I'm just going to give you a quick overview. So this is, we start off in Fort Worth as Fort Worth, and I had to convert this street to the 1800s. It's right up from the stockyards in Fort Worth. So it's modern day. So I'm just going to give you the vibe, and then we're going to talk to the nitty-gritty of how we got it done. It's one of my favorite moments. This is a restaurant, bar. He was actually really great, Billy Bob Thornton. And then we went on a wagon train. So we did all of this work in Fort Worth, converting modern day stuff to 1800s / we built some sets. And then we went on a wagon train, and it got grum, and we went to Montana, and we built this city, Doan's Crossing, and we have to light some things on fire. Research. I started with research, and I just pin it up. And every day somebody would pull a piece of research off the wall. Okay, go do this, go do that. It was pretty crazy. Here's the town research. All of that writing and that text, like what is the text? What is the writing? Look at the font, the windows, the details, the awnings, every single thing we got from all of this research. This is called Exchange Avenue, and that's it. That's existing. And we started with renderings. Okay, so this is the energy we're going, this is the direction we're going in. And I had to convert this street. And so you can only bite off an apple one bite at a time. So I just said, okay, I started at the top of the street and I went down, one building at a time. So we had to go in, first of all, we just had to decide, this is gonna be the sheriff's office, this is gonna be the saloon, this is gonna be the hotel. I mean, you just have to decide. So you make these decisions, and then we just went for it. And we went through every single building, one building at a time. And then you dirt the street, and you add the curbs. Such good moments. That was a bar. We boarded it up because it had tinted windows, We added that colonnade on this overhang. This is just me on set, kind of grabbing some photos. Wait till you see that transformation. And then the in-between of the buildings needed dressing. And I swear we didn't get to that till a couple days before shooting. And it was like, okay, build a fence, get a wagon, maybe some coffins. You have to give characters to all of these spaces like we did in the flashback town hall, And the graphics. And then you need to go and do another layer. It's a layer. So the fences just didn't work. We had to go and do graphics. So, this is hiding a parking lot where the crew is basically based right behind this. All of the cube trucks are that's why we made the fence a certain height, so the cube trucks could go behind it. It's all this crazy math equation. And again, communication. Okay. Oh, Tattoo Ranch. So that's Tattoo Ranch, and this is great because it is on an angle, and so we decided this is where the livery is going to be, and that's where it's a horse stable where you store your wagons and your horses. It's a very big moment where John Dutton comes in, parks his wagon, and that's where we're going to have like big moment, the first glimpse in town. Here are the drawings. So in order to be able to do such a big facade, we took shipping containers and we attached the facade to shipping containers. You can see it at the bottom left-hand corner. And we left a big gap in the middle. So that would be where the sliding doors would just be a black hole. And then the shipping containers make it safe to be able to put this big, big, big wall up. And there it is. So Tattoo Ranch is behind. You can still get a tattoo, by the way. And then you bring in, they had these like, these concrete curbs are actually foam that they can put you carve them and then you can put sort of a solution, a plaster on top to kind of help preserve it. But of course, they looked real. People stepped on them all the time. But there's the livery is absolutely gorgeous, and you know the graphic really sells it. But look, we don't have to do too much. We did have to build the side wall, but if you look in that like left-hand side, that's actually metal roof. We just painted, so you can only do so much. There's only so much time. We had 6 weeks and $5 million, and they only shot there 4 days. I was devastated when I was like, you'll be here a couple weeks, right? There were like 4 days. I was like, what? So here's a rendering looking at another angle of the street. And that's the building that you see kind of right there with the lady in the red dress. So it again, good bones, except the dumpster part. But that long facade is great. Add some little awnings on the windows, kind of give it a three-dimensional element. We don't want anything flat. And then that back wall, you can see this is a picture where I was measuring it like crazy. And then we had the drawings to put this facade on that wall. Boom, there you go. And we had a staircase built so that they can still access the top, and they were able to put ladies up on top because this was supposed to be a brothel. That photo you can kind of see that's a facade, and then you just put window dressing so you don't see that it's empty behind. Oh, this liquor and sport building, well, its original space is called Hookers, and it's not that far off. This is actually a really great burger place, and so we had to embrace it. This was our worst. This was the worst night. I think I got to this last because I was like, I cannot deal with Hookers. It's so bad. So we drew the facade. So we used the existing, and you need the existing because you need that structural element to help you with securing building faces to their faces. And there it is, they ended up, and then there was that sign right there had to go into the ground. They hung somebody from that sign. So of course they want to hang somebody. So you have to make it safe, and you have to make sure, you talk to many different people and make sure that it's safe, and they do it. This was my favorite. So this is again between two buildings. It was a parking lot, and we decided, we were kind of like just so spread thin, making all of these massive renovations to all of these buildings, that we made this little brick under construction site. And I just think it came out great. And actors were able to stand on this like fabricated period correct scaffolding and like look like they're putting bricks on, and those arches move so they could be handing somebody an arch. So it gave us action, it makes it alive, and I think it came out great. There's sort of a little behind the scenes photo. Oh, Pinkerton, it was a big set, and this is the location, and it's divided into like 3 or 4 businesses. So we built it on stage. So there it is, built on stage. And then we had to build it exactly. The facade had to be exact on stage because they were going to shoot on location and on our sets. So, and there was a storeroom in the back where they're going to store all their materials because they can't take all the stuff that they brought on the wagons. Ooh, sorry. Here's a set photo. So this is a built set on stage. A lot of texture. They're a detective agency. And if you see right here, there's a staircase. They ended up doing a scene up there, but it gives depth. It's not just so flat because the space was so big, so that helped. And there's a doorway that leads into the storage room. So then we had this storage room we built where they brought too many things, and they were like, Sam Elliott was like, "You can't bring all this in a wagon. Are you crazy?" Oh, such a beautiful moment. I mean, it's like the skills, I mean, the lighting and the camera, everybody, set deck, actors, wardrobe, that's like a moment when it all comes together, you know? It's a really beautiful space. And then we had to shoot at this farmhouse, the interiors. You can see they're a little rough. And then we had to build it to burn it down. Yeah, my architecture professor came to set that day, and she was just like, I don't understand what you do. So there it is under construction. I think it's beautiful. It came out great. It's a beautiful scene. It's a heart-wrenching scene. And he throws, all we had to build, because they shot it on the interior on location, but he does go through that doorway. So those first 2 rooms had a little bit of texture, a little bit of some furniture, but then luckily, it was mostly exterior, so then it burned. The wagons. So I've also been referred to as the wagon queen because I had to wrangle 29 wagons on a wagon train, and it was very hard. And I got frustrated because I was like, this is not creative. I am supposed to be doing creative things, but I got something out of this because this is basically the rest of the show for me. So I did the most intense flip of a street in like 6 weeks, and then slammed into the wilderness of just like coordinating, telling people to put wagons where. But luckily it was written that they're a hot mess in the beginning of their wagon train, and then they got to like massive, awesome defense circles at the end. That's great because I was a hot mess landing them in the very beginning, so it totally worked. So here's us as a hot mess. It was so great. Thank goodness that we shot it in semi-order. We didn't, but we did. And then look at us getting our wagons together. So we get it together. You saw in the trailer that beautiful wagon train. That was like the first time we did wagons. It was nuts. I mean, that's real. Taylor does not like to CGI anything. Try not to do that. So it's all real. So this is when they're on their big wagon train. So we carried like 28 wagons, 29 wagons, and there's some doubles because things happen to them. And so here's when we hit a tornado. So we fabricated a tornado with Ritter fans. And I have this is actually a video. So we fabricated a tornado, and the fans these massive fans definitely help give the grass, realistic that there's a tornado. So the poor wagon train had to cross in front of those fans. And then we built fake wagons to set on fire and to do destruction like this for the tornado. So this is where we took our fake wagon. This is a built stationary wagon that doesn't roll, to be destroyed in the tornado. So special effects rigged it. Yeah, it's crazy. So this is the aftermath. And so this is set dressing a little bit those wagons, but of course we augment everything because a tornado really didn't happen. And then this is the aftermath. So this is them rebuilding. And so they lost a lot, thank God. So I only had to deal with like 9 after that. So yeah, those are some good numbers, 29 to 9. And then this was a hard day. I would have to get up every day around 2 or 3 in the morning, go to set because it's an hour away. And then I'd land all of these things every day in the dark with headlamps and coats. And then at 7 a.m. they would start shooting, and then I would start preparing for tomorrow. It was very challenging. That was 6 weeks of my life. So here we are, patched, on wagon trains, and it gets grim. They go to Montana, and you see how they're all patched. That's all from the tornado damage, and they're very slim down. Okay, this is not at night outside. This is in an arena. So it got to be too cold and too hard for the actors to work those kind of night scenes on location. So in an arena, and I knew this, so I was very careful to document the grass and the ground and the plants and greens. That's why you have a strong greens department. Gathered things, because we didn't shoot this till months later, but we knew it was happening. And so I just had this arena, and we laid out the grass, and then we have the grass clumps, and then I gave it height, because because we couldn't build mounds, it just wasn't possible. So you did it with grass, tall grass in the back, medium, flat, clumps. And you see those Ritter fans? There they are, they did them in there. And there we are, shooting a lot of night work in the wagons and outside the wagons, in little fires and all of that. And the Comanche, we work so beautifully. We have a beautiful relationship with Mo Brings Plenty. He's in Yellowstone. He's also my native liaison. And Mo and I had to put these teepees up in one day in 18 inches of snow. And we met a couple days previously, and he just drew it on the ground of what we were going to do. And I thought, that's actually my favorite site plan I've ever made. So I took a picture, and I just typed it and sent it out to the director. And it's incredible. So he is our advisor. We did 3 different tribes on 1883. This is the Lakota. This was in Montana. So the Montanas, this was Comanche. Mo was able to advise for that. This is sort of the impetus of all of the turmoil on 1883, because a tribe's property was all destroyed. He gave us these beautiful moments. He said we needed some height, and he drew us this beautiful diary. Here's the Crow. This is Crow, because this is in Montana. And then this is the last thing I'll show you, is they're seeing she has to walk in the water. This is November in Montana, and you guys, this was so hard just to do the walking barefoot. So we built them a warming pool, because she has to be completely dunked. So they just did that moment on set in Montana. I don't even know, 17 degrees? Too much. And then when we were in that arena shooting that night work, we built this warming pool. So the water was, of course, decent. And the DP knew how to do this, because he had worked on something else where he needed to build the water. So he says, you bring in these branches, and then he's able to catch the reflection of the branches with the soft texture light on top of that, and then boom, you don't see any camera equipment. That's it. With 1 minute to spare.
That is hot mic. It looks like we got about 10 minutes for a Q&A. If we want to take some questions, that was awesome. That was very cool to see the transformation of those things. We got any questions right down here?
Hey, I'm Ashley. I have a quick question. So I ironically have a theater background too, and I'm here online for creative writing because I didn't live locally when I started. I work at a professional theater here in town, and I've been on here when I've been off of work all week. I took off to come to this today because I wanted to be here for this, and this was exactly why. I looked at the art department, tree that you did. Any suggestions for someone that wants to kind of go from the theater side into this, and what you would recommend doing to get there?
That's a great question. And everybody loves my little diagram. That's a great question, because you have to also find your place. And my rule of thumb is do something, don't do nothing, And having a theater background is a phenomenal prerequisite for anything in this world, I started remember when I was saying I was in the theater program and then they needed some people, and I went over there. I got it on a film, and I was a PA, and they weren't going to pay me any money, and I'm like, oh my God, okay. So I'm like, but you know what? Had a good attitude. I showed up. I did my job. They go, can you come in on Saturday? We need to talk to you. And I was like, for free. Copy that. Showed up with the best attitude, and they want to promote me. So you show up with the best attitude. and you start where you can start. And then I think a lot of people, some people, like with interior design passions, they do the set decorating part and they get to dress sets. And I think you learn by doing. I have done, like we all, when it was quarantined and nobody could let out of quarantine or be popped or whatever, we had to do the greens work and it was so hard. We were shoveling all those we call them those grass clumps, But it's like when you do all these things, you find your niche. So it's getting your foot in the door, having a good attitude, working hard, and then you meet people, and then they're like, will you come with me? I need you to come do this. And so it's just doing. And then when you get your feet on the ground, you find what works best for you, because your heart and your body will tell you. Okay.
Thanks, we're done here.
Hi, I'm Kai. I also was going to ask about theater to film, ironically. What was the biggest difference going from working with stage to big film or television sets? Because a stage obviously is only so big, and now you have large, bouts of land and stages, like sound stages or arenas to work with, compared to just a small stage for theater.
I mean, the basics are there, and I was very transparent. I didn't know how to do the wagons. I learned. So you have this skill set, and you just have to apply it to the scenario that you're given. I mean, I didn't know how to do any of this. This was all new territory, but you rely on your experience, your personal experience, your personal journey, and that's what makes you unique. I mean, I hope one day I get to do some fun, cool dance thing, because I've got that background. Hasn't happened yet. But you just pull from your own experience, and when you've got this fire underneath you that you have to get this done, you figure it out. But yeah, my boss would just throw me, because there's always so much to do and not enough time. So he and I would divide. I think he would give me the exteriors, because he's like, there's not much you can mess up. He was going to do the interiors. And I would land these huge things. But you saw all those pieces accumulated and gave me magical skills to do Yellowstone. But again, the wagon trains and no, it doesn't look hard, but it was so hard. That's why I had to start doing those diagrams, because they would be like, can we shoot that scene we did on Thursday again? And I'm like, what? Does anybody remember? So finally we started making these diagrams. So I learned constant critiquing myself and just taking all of those things that you have and you apply it to that scenario. So it's just like getting a new play. It's very similar. It translates beautifully. And I think you have the performance, the choreography for me from all of that dance got me to work through buildings. And then I know, understanding, okay, well, she's going to stand here and I want to see that. So, but it's also experience. I didn't go to film school, so I didn't understand camera placements. And so I learned by doing and learned by making mistakes. Sometimes you're like, yeah, that wasn't the best thing we could have done for Machete. He drove through. He's supposed to barrel down this road and blast through a building, and I just made the most beautiful facade and these double doors, and we get to the day and they shoot it, and the doors just opened because I didn't calculate the size of a car and the size of my double doors, so it looked like somebody pressed a button and said, welcome. And then on the other side of the door, we shot all this aftermath, and I was just like a little bit defeated. I was like, but I learned from that, and then you just apply it and apply it and apply it.
Thank you.
I hope that answers your question.
Got anyone else? On this side? Oh, you got one here? Okay.
Hi. So I'm Allison. My undergrad's actually in history, and then I'm here now doing my master's in film production. So my question is, were there any historical consultants other than just for the natives, for costuming, anything like that?
Absolutely, yes. She had access. She went to archives for the costuming, and especially with all of our native work, that's a really beautiful thing that Taylor implements. And I did it on Yellowstone. I waited to talk about it on 1883 because I had such juicy examples. But everything goes through them, and that's why I was very specific with the tribes. And we got specific consultants for each tribe. We didn't do a general pass, So yes, the costumes on 1883 are absolutely stunning. And yes, she's from Mad Men. I mean, she's done amazing things. And she did research. They go to archives and they meet with people and they look at things. So yes, every single thing, especially with Taylor, has to be accurate and precise. Every spur, every gun, every single thing, we are held to very extreme high standards. It's probably not a television standard, but he thinks of things as a feature. He thinks of 1883 as one movie. He thinks of Yellowstone as a movie. It's just chopped up into 10 parts or 8 parts.
Is it on? Yeah. Awesome. I'm Elissa. I have a question about like your portfolio when you're building it, like a website. Mm-hmm. I have experience not only in like set design and set deck, but also in a little bit of graphic design and Vectorworks. Should I include that as well with each project, or like in a separate category? How is it best to kind of format that?
I have on my website. It's versions. I just rebuilt my website and I did 2 categories. I did performance, so I looped all of my theater, dance into one category there, and then I did film and TV, and then I had that category, and I've kind of played with that. I used to do dance, theater, film. It's like depends on how beefy you need to get things to look. Then when you get more stuff, then you kind of have to pare it down and make it clear, but only show your best things. It's interesting. You'll have all these photos when you're done. You're so emotionally attached to every single one of them, and then a year later, you're like, "Oh my gosh, I cannot believe I put that on the internet." So you get emotionally unattached, and you help condense things. But I think if you have graphic experience, I think that's extreme. I started out doing set design, graphic design, anything I could do to get a job, and then get your foot in the door, and then you meet somebody, and they're like, "Oh, I need you over here." Wait, I used to call people and say, "I can do art department. I know you just need a PA for this chicken commercial," and they'd be like, "Come on," and so you just accumulate. But yeah, I've played with that, and I think it's just sometimes it's also specific for the job of whatever you're going for. You want to show them that you can do all these things, but this is what you're going for. So give yourself a primary, secondary, tertiary. This is what you're going for, but look, I also have this experience.
Thank you.
I think we have time for about one more.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Go
ahead. So my name is Nadia. I also have a question about switching from film to theater. How do you prepare yourself mentally from going from one to another?
I'm a Libra.
Me too. Me too.
2 things. I think it's a joy. It helps me take a break from one and do another. Like right now, I'm actually going to do a dance. I'm doing a dance piece with someone in St. Petersburg. I'm very much a Libra, but I love the back and forth because it makes me grateful. So, but what's so great is you're bringing those theater skills to film. Then you're bringing those film skills like, oh, you know what we did? We made a fake rock. Let me show you how we did it. You're bringing that to theater. My daughter does both. She's just playing Moana and Little Mermaid and stuff. But she was like, we had a prop and we had a fake rock, just like you have in the garage. So, it's like, I think they all intertwine. It's just one is motion and one is live,
I think we're about time to wrap it up. If we have more questions, we can take some more questions. We're going to do it outside. That way everybody can get them in. We're just running out of time. But thank you so much. It was fantastic. For a big round of applause.